All right, everybody, who's ready for a little bit of prove me wrong disagreement? And I brought Vivek Ramaswamy, everybody.
Big fans. You're Vivek who ran for president, right?
That's
Ramaswamy.
me.
Oh, that's just great. I've got a question that I think has been on everybody's minds a lot. I really speak for the people here. I just want to say, like, what do y'all think? Unlimited bacon or no games, or unlimited games, no games, but no games?
All right, next question.
Next?
Wait,
I'm
trolls
actually
will not
trying
be
to-
tolerated. Thank you very much. You know,
It was
yep.
just too
I'm
advanced
sorry,
for
I'm really
me.
nervous.
Thanks.
I'm really nervous.
Yeah, that's great. Thank
All
you.
right, have a good one. Can I have a hat?
Nope.
Very advanced.
Thank you.
Charlie, you've stated that you're not into criminalizing the mother for an abortion. Why is that? Like, how can we make a law that has no consequences?
Well, there's two parts of this, right? The first of which is no person should advocate for retroactive enforcement of something that was once legal to then make illegal. We can agree with that, right?
Right.
No matter what the law is. You cannot claw back. For example, if all of a sudden the government says you can't have a public assembly like this and that is effective tomorrow, they can't go back today and put us all in prison, right? So that's number one, retroactive. Number two, my heart goes out to women that have abortions
Right.
because they're lied to and manipulated. And it's based on one very simple medical principle, the lack of informed consent. I do not believe women, largely when they get abortions, know what they're doing. They're not given ultrasounds for their baby. They're not informed of the gruesome and graphic details surrounding their procedure. Instead, the justice system should be focused on the abortionists that are actually doing that procedure. Does that make sense?
I mean, I guess, but the person also committing the crime, like killing her baby, I feel like should also be held responsible. Like, how can we ban abortions and the mom just still be let go?
Yeah, we're just not going to agree. I just don't. First of all, she's not doing the act. Many times she's being forced into that situation by someone paying for that abortion, such as someone that she might have had a relationship with, or even in terrible pimps also do it as well. But we're not going to agree because I think our posture on abortion should be compassion for the women that have abortions and get abortions, and justice for the industry that lies to them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Rachel. Already off the bat, I do not agree with a lot of politically what any of you have to say, but I'm a part of Bridge Pittsburgh, which is an organization that believes in having civil discussion without yelling at each other. So I actually have some friends from Turning Point back there, even though I am a registered Democrat. So what's up, Jesse?
That's cool. I like that, actually.
My question is actually for you, Vivek. First off, thanks for coming. Second, as a person of color and as someone of Indian descent, does it offend you whenever there's comments made about Kamala and some racial insensitivities on that? Does that offend you in any way or hurt you, or does that drive you to still try to be representative of your party, even when those comments are made by your party?
Give me a specific comment.
Okay, well, for example, the recent thing that was, if Kamala got elected, the White House would smell like curry. Does that offend you in any way, or is that just like drive for you to?
For the record, Trump
do it?
did not say
No,
that.
Donald Trump did not say that, but it was still implied as there's a presidential election needs to
So
be made,
I'm
yeah.
actually a pretty thick-skinned guy. I can tell the difference between somebody who has an earnest joke and the person who actually happens to say that. I happen to know doesn't have ill will towards Indian people. But if you're going to joke, my only rule is you better apply it 360 degrees. Okay, you can't apply it selectively. Here's actually my view on this: is a lot of Indian Americans across the country actually have been somewhat disappointed for a long time about Kamala Harris's willingness to engage with and listen to a lot of the concerns even of the Indian American community. I'll tell you what one of them is relating to merit in getting into college, merit in getting into jobs without regard to your skin color, your discrimination. I think most people want that better life for their kids. And so I think most people think about that regardless of their skin color, but if you're thinking about actual concerns of the Indian American community, that's probably very high on the list, and Kamala Harris is failing to embody that. Now, for me, my own view is, let me level with you a little bit. I actually think we have seen an unusual level, like this is in the last year, okay? And it's strange. A small uptick in anti-black and anti-Hispanic racism in the country. And I would have never thought we were going to see it. Here's why I think we've seen it. I think we've seen it as a reactionary response to the anti-racist movement for the last 10 years, because there's no better way to foster racial animus than to take something else away from someone based on their skin color. So when you say you don't get that federal aid, or you don't get that seat in college, or you don't get that job because of your skin color, you're going to have a negative attitude towards the person who was favored because of their race.
Okay.
And this is what's going on in Springfield, too, by the way, when I'm visiting tomorrow.
Lord.
No, in a certain sense, if you're going to put 20,000 people who are not going to be able to integrate into a community, into that community, I sympathize with people who are suffering as a consequence of that. That's necessarily going to spawn a reactionary response.
I did agree with you on that when you said that earlier.
But then you can't blame the reactionary response and say they're responsible for the division. I think it's a lot of those policies that created that division in the first place. And bluntly, I do put a lot of that at the feet of Kamala Harris and the movement that she represents. So that's where I'm at on it. Thank you for the question.
yeah.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Do you feel proud of yourself for debating college kids who are unprepared to speak in front of an audience like yourself? Hold on. You're 30 years old. We can agree you're 30 years old, right? Do you think that's a little bit silly?
Are you a voter?
I am a voter. I'm a
so
registered voter.
I vote and you vote. So I'm talking to voters of this country that will determine the future of Western civilization. That's what I'm doing here today. Yeah? Wait, hold on. How is it any different than a professor talking to you?
Then a professor talking to you? Who are you?
Well, important enough for you to come up to a microphone.
Actually, when I first saw this ad, I thought it was like an improv comedy thing. It looked so ridiculous that I didn't even think it was real.
Well, no, you could see. Look how popular Trump is on your campus. How does that make you feel? That's not comedy. That is a 5-alarm fire for Kamala Harris because she's probably going to lose Pennsylvania.
Look.
But no, I just want to be clear. Is there something wrong with talking to voters?
No, there's nothing wrong with talking to
Well, that's
voters.
what we're doing here today. It's an open mic.
I think that you push a dangerous agenda.
Such as?
Your stance on abortion rights, for example.
Here we go. Okay, so
Let me ask a question. What is your name?
Gene.
Gene, and what is your understanding of the current Republican Party's stance on federal intervention in abortion?
Well, I know that they want to bring it back to the states, right?
So it sounds like you do know that the Republican Party's current stance on abortion is they're against a federal ban on abortion.
I do
And we're
understand
talking about
that,
a
yes.
presidential election as the
Yes.
important election that we're talking about here.
I understand that, yes.
Great. So, again, I think this open dialogue is great. I think it's great you're here challenging Charlie, and I think it's great that he's willing to travel campuses across this country to talk to the next generation. We need more conversation. Now, where's the disagreement, though, on content? Because you could criticize style or why you're talking to people
Listen,
or dunk on someone personally, but where do you actually disagree with
I
the
agree
substance?
with the way that you edit content and specifically frame it so that people look bad talking to you. The way that you edit your content.
we post unedited content.
Let me just ask you one thing though, because personal insults can fly in all directions. Where is an area where you have a disagreement with the conservative movement, with Donald Trump, with Charlie Kirk, perhaps with myself? I was a presidential candidate last year. I think we need to talk about that more in the open, and the more we do, the stronger our country is going to be. We got a long line of people, but I want to hear from you one substantive area where you have an authentic disagreement, and I'd be glad to address it. I'm sure Charlie would too.
Just in any
Relating
political.
to any political topic where you have a disagreement. Let's air it.
Okay. I disagree with some of the laws that are being pushed in Congress that are against the LGBTQ community and the trans community.
Okay, so let's talk about that. I'm going to give you my view, and then I want to hear yours.
Okay.
My view is that if you're a fully grown adult, 18 or above, you're free to live how you want, dress how you want, marry who you want if you want, if you're
Okay.
over the age of 18.
I agree.
But you are not free to indoctrinate children in schools who are not yet of the age of consent. You are not free, just as you're a 17-year-old or a 15-year-old can't get a tattoo on their own, I don't think that you should be able to go or until the age of 18. And so the lines that I draw here is that men are free to claim to be women and swim in swimming pools. You're not free to claim trophies in a women's sports competition. You're not free to enter a women's locker room. You're not free to change a language. And you're not free to actually indoctrinate our children who are under the age of 5 in schools. Do we agree on the fact that adults should be able to live freely while still treating children differently? If so, we're on the same side of this issue.
Listen, I agree with the majority of what you said. However, I don't think that you're understanding the implications of the laws that are trying to be passed.
Look, we got a head start in the conversation. We got a long line behind you. But my only ask is, forget the personal attacks or the stylistic attacks. Focus on substance. The more we debate that, the stronger we're going to be as a country. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I don't think you're focusing on substance, though. That's the issue.
Hold on. Look, he intentionally tried to provoke substance out of you, and you said, well, I'm worried about some laws Congress should pass. I have to ask, what laws are you talking about? Can you be specific?
I'm sorry, I'm very nervous, but this is what you do. This is what you do. You take people and you put them under the spotlight, and you.
Well, hold on. I didn't ask you to come up here. You voluntarily came to the front of the line. You didn't have to do that.
You're purposely antagonizing people on campus, asking
How?
people to come up by spreading your weird agenda.
What agenda is that? I'm confused though.
So, Charlie, I'll say this. We'll end on this and we'll go to the next question. When I was 18, and I'm not going to blame you for this, I also took for granted a lot of the stuff that the media force-fed me, because that's what you know at the age of 18. You say there are some vague laws making their way through Congress that are hostile to trans community.
Know how?
I don't think those
do you
laws
know
actually
about,
exist, but I don't blame you if
Listen
that's
to me.
what the cable media is feeding you. But let's get to the specifics, and then we're able to actually have an open dialogue. And that's one of the things I've learned over the last 20 years.
I think that the
that's
issue
part
is
of-
we're getting our
part of
media
learning
from
our
different
country.
sources. Both people are getting media from these skewed sources. The facts that you're presenting are not always correct.
And that's why we're here with no TV screens between us. So people who have policy-based substantive disagreements, we invite those. I think that's how we're going to get our country back. And as it relates to trans, which you brought up, 18 or above, you're free to live how you want. You're not free to force that onto somebody else, or especially kids. And if we agree on
Thank
that,
you
we
very
make some
much.
progress.
Thank you. Disagreements, yeah.
I like that. It's a very interesting sign. It says "Right in Biden." I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. We'll bring him up in a little bit.
How are you doing? My name's Kunj. I'm a first-year voter as well this year. I'm an independent. I'm not left or right yet, but I'm just wondering where are your underlying values at as to why you became a Republican. Like, what are the morals behind it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not a great example to ask because I'm not a politician by background. I'm a businessman. I ran for U.S. president last year as a Republican. But I said this countless times, and it might have annoyed some people in the party. I wasn't running as a Republican. I'm running as an American. Okay, and that's actually what I care about are our pro-American values. Where do I derive my values as a political leader in the country? Starts with the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. I believe the people we elect to run the government, even if they're the ones I disagree with, the people we elect to run the government should be the ones who run the government, not the unelected bureaucrats who put up puppets as their U.S. president. I'm pointing to Biden. He's not even running the country right now. We call him the U.S. president. He's not the functioning U.S. president. That's not a democracy. I believe in merit, that the best person should get the job. Free speech, open debate. And so all I'd say is if you want to call yourself an independent, that's a pretty good thing to be. Hard to argue with being independent-minded. But stand for the values enshrined in our Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And if there's a point in the future, 50 years from now, where the Republican Party abandons that, then I'm not a Republican anymore. I'm sorry. The Republican Party actually was the party that stood against slavery back when Abraham Lincoln was president, and it's a party that stands against enslavement today. But if that ever changes in the future, then I'm out of the Republican Party. I'm into the pro-American movement. And the reason I vote and stand for election as a Republican is because right now that is the pro-American Party in America.
Yeah, and I'm a conservative and vote Republican because I think the founders got it right. I think the founders understood human nature. I think that they understood the form of government, and they understood that people are best served when liberty is recognized as given by a divine source, not as a government source, that decentralized power is best, that 3 branches of checks and balances and consent of the governed is the correct way of governing a country. The conservative movement understands and appreciates our roots going back to 1776 and trying to ask the question, are we leaning into the founders' vision of this country? And so those are the values that I hinge upon.
All right,
I
thank
think
you
we
guys.
should give that guy wants to be heard.
All right, he'll come up.
All right, have a good day.
Yeah, he wants to be heard. 1 second, we're gonna give him a chance, or else we may be here. It's fascinating. Right in Biden.
Yeah, it's a new movement me and my roommate have started. Really trying to take it off here. So like this? Okay, I see. Yeah, I think the Democratic Party turned their back on Joe Biden way too fast. It was like overnight. One night, they were all supporting him. The next night, I look at Twitter, bam, no longer voting for him. He lost the ticket overnight. Nothing's more undemocratic than that.
I thought it was going to be a disagree.
Thank you.
But I agree.
I totally agree. And so I guess you're more liberal leaning, probably, maybe.
I'd say most of my ideals align with Joe Biden.
No, that's fine. And why do you think that Democrats, saying they're the party of democracy, were able just to remove a candidate? That should bother more people, right?
Well, I think it's not necessarily something with the Democratic Party. I think the Republicans would do it as well. I think it's just an issue of the two-party system. Honestly, that's my...
So, look, Charlie and I share this in common. We're not afraid to, and have not been afraid to criticize the Republican Party when necessary.
Right.
I just think in the political system right now, overall, in general, what do we have? You got a bunch of puppets who are wielded by the managerial class, including a mega donor class,
Sure.
that uses politicians as pawns. You see it in the Democratic Party, you see it in the Republican Party. We're in a unique moment in the history of the Republican Party. It wasn't this way for most of my life.
Right.
But we're in a unique moment where the person who happens to be the Republican nominee is independently a billionaire and is at least, you may disagree with his policies, but he's at least not somebody who's controlled by that machine. People may not like him for a lot of reasons, but what I think is one of the things we probably share in common, because I could tell from your sign, is, I said it before, I'll say it again. The people we elect to run the government should be the ones who actually run the government.
I fully
and
agree.
Joe Biden has not been given the freedom to do that. And I think if we agree on that much, call that an agreement
Sure.
rather than a disagreement.
I think the issue is, though, although Donald Trump is a billionaire by his own right, if you look at, FEC versus Citizens United, the Supreme Court case, Donald Trump's also getting an insane amount of money from private donors. 501c's.
Kamala Harris is actually getting far more. I
know. It's like what?
More.
It's like 300 million to 200 million.
No,
I don't think it's 5 times more.
It's 5 times more. It's not even close.
I don't think that's true.
Either way, if you want to get mega money out of politics, I think you're going to find some allies here in thinking about ways to do that for the system.
You're only just a kind of a wonky thing. It's more than what Open Secrets reports. However,
Okay.
I think this is an admirable crusade.
Thank you.
And we're going to publicize it on our social media
Of course.
channels.
That's
It's kind
lovely.
of interesting to me.
Yeah, I think it's a unique movement. I just wish more people would consider Joe Biden for 2024. I think we turned our backs on him way too fast.
Okay.
I'd love
What's
to
your
see
name,
more.
man?
I'm Ryan.
Ryan, what's
Yes.
your last name?
Ryan Farah.
Ryan Farrah's starting a movement. Let's see how he
Thank
does
you.
in the next
Yeah,
50
He's
days.
trying to change the world.
Thank you. I was lovely talking to you guys.
Thank you.
I'm Julia. I'm also a first-time voter. I just have a simple yes or no question. If the only way to ban abortion forever would be to bring back slavery, would you do it?
No.
No?
I wouldn't bring back slavery to try to limit murder. No.
Okay.
What kind of outrageous question is that, by the way?
I'm just curious. Just
No,
yes
but-
or no?
Can I ask you a question then?
Sure.
If the only way to limit human suffering is to ban abortion, would you ban abortion?
Say that again. Ask that again.
If the only way to limit human suffering is to ban abortion, would you ban abortion?
No.
It was an honest answer.
Okay.
It was an honest answer.
Yeah. I just yeah. That's it.
We probably disagree with you pretty deeply on that. But thank you.
When does life begin in your estimation?
I just wanted to ask a yes or no. That's it.
No, sure, but when does life begin?
That's all I wanted to ask was a yes or no. That's it.
Okay, I could tell you've thought deeply about this topic.
Yes,
Okay, thank
I
you.
have.
Great. Yep, next question. Yep, you can work your way up, guys. Can you do me a favor? If you're a supporter, make room for the disagreements, please, okay? Thank you.
Hello, Misters Kirk and Ramaswamy, right?
Yeah.
So I wrote
The
this
pronunciation right there. I appreciate that.
down. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I'm a sort of. I just want to preface by saying I'm not a conservative. I'm a pretty committed left-wing. Oh, got a. Sorry, I always have a problem with microphones. I just want to preface I'm not conservative. I'm a pretty committed leftist Catholic. But I am curious, like, what do you, or I guess conservatives generally, like, stand to conserve whenever you shift left every single time the Overton window shifts? Like on certain topics, like I guess, because like integration, LGBTQ plus rights movement, immigration as well. Like it seems like, I guess ideological state apparatuses have, like obviously we think slavery is wrong, right? Like that's clearly wrong. But it's also 150 years of state-sponsored education creating that sort of thing, in the same way that we have, I guess, 50 years of integration being promoted and things like that, which I'm not against at all, right? I think these are very good things, but it seems like things that previously were tried to conserve, or conservative movements in the past have always failed to actually conserve specific social issues like that.
Did you say you were a leftist Catholic?
Leftist Catholic, yeah.
That's amazing.
Social conservative, fiscal liberal.
Okay,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
that's fair. I wouldn't say that's a leftist Catholic, though. I don't. You're something else then.
Yeah, it's like sort of a
Fair enough, yeah.
American Solidarity Party kind of.
Okay, yeah, but not like liberation theology.
I can get down with it a little bit, but not terribly so. Yeah.
Okay.
Like Oscar Romero was just saying, I would say.
So what you're trying to pinpoint is a little bit of a logical fallacy. Is you're saying that that slavery is bad, segregation is bad, but there's other things that are worthy of conserving, like the family.
Yeah.
And that's where our emphasis is on. Correct?
Kind of, but you guys are just going, like, I think the nuclear family has sort of been the death of America in a lot of ways. Like, we need multi-generational households. Like my mother didn't grow up in a nuclear family. She lived with her grandfather and stuff like that. I feel like the 1950s, these sort of single-family households are very destructive for the United States in the way that we sort of perceive things. Like, you just send older people to...
That's a smart point, but I think Vivek can...
Yeah, so I think that, first of all, let's look at it in a political context outside of the religious context. And I'd love to come back to the religious context after that.
Yeah.
So from a political context, you're 8 times more likely to graduate from high school. You're 10 times more likely to end up in prison if you grow up in a single-parent household rather than a dual-parent household. You're more likely to end up in poverty if you grow up in a single-parent household. So I actually believe the nuclear family has been the single greatest building block of not only the United States of America. This is actually true for societies across time, even dating back to Aristotle, believing that the polity was built only around a strong household unit. And it's very personal to me. I mean, people often use the word privilege. Well, I mean, I actually didn't grow up in wealth. I grew up with the ultimate privilege of 2 parents in the house, instilling in us belief in the family and belief with a faith in God. And so I think that is inherently good just economically. If you're talking about economical and social outcomes.
But I agree.
It's better.
Multi-generational is actually probably more ideal than nuclear, but you can agree nuclear better than single.
Yeah.
Well, I don't view nuclear as incompatible. I mean, we've had grandparents in the house when I'm growing up, et cetera, as well.
I just think it's a stage of degradation, I would say, of our
that's
society,
probably fair. But I mean, I think multi-generational is a really beautiful thing. I concede that point. I totally. And so what's the disagreement?
Nuclear embedded in multi-generational.
Well, I guess my original question was like, because also since you also agree that the nuclear family is a degradation from the multi-generational,
yes
at
and
least
no.
in a way, in some ways, obviously. But like, what have conservatives conserved on social issues? Like I mean, 20, 30 years ago, a presidential candidate couldn't have said gay marriage was okay.
Oh yeah, okay. So
not that I necessarily disagree with like legalizing gay marriage.
Well,
religious
that's a
and
good
other
question.
Stuff.
We repealed Roe versus Wade. That's a big deal.
It was kind of a dead letter, though. I mean, like, there's certain, like Casey and stuff, like the Roe thing was, viability, and then it went up to 15 weeks or something, then there's other...
Well, Casey v. Planned Parenthood was in 1992, and we lost that case 5-4 because of Anthony Kennedy's decision. Opinion.
Subsequent case law and stuff like that really does...
No, I know, but what have conservatives conserved?
Yeah.
Not enough.
Yeah.
But we did repeal Roe versus Wade. Gun rights are more abundant than we've ever seen in this country, which I think is a very, very good thing. Second Amendment protections.
Ronald Reagan banned machine guns, though.
Okay, you're right. We can nitpick certain individuals, but
I mean, Trump banned bump stocks.
If your contention is that the conservative movement has not been good enough at slowing down the left-wing machine, you're totally right.
Yeah,
well, I don't disagree.
I think the goal shouldn't be slowing down, though. I think because, like I said, I think my issue with you is that you always go left with the Overton window shift.
Do we?
In that.
I mean,
it seems like it. Yeah.
Well, did you hear my discussion on abortion earlier, or on trans stuff, or?
I don't agree with you on abortion. I mean, I'm anti-Griswold v. Connecticut or whatever. Connecticut v. Griswold. I think that was even worse than Roe v. Wade in terms of Supreme Court decisions. I mean, because there you also get to the right.
I don't want to get too in the
weeds.
I
like this guy's philosophical. I'll tell you one thing where I don't know. Charlie and I haven't talked about this, but I'll tell you where I am. I actually gave speeches about this last year, which is that what happens when the thing that you seek to conserve no longer actually exists? I actually think the conservative movement right now needs to recreate, actually. I think we have lost those founding ideals. So we're not in the mode of just defending a thing. We've defended the castle. The castle's empty. So now's the moment where we actually have to rebuild the thing, in some cases from a clean edifice. So I think that's an exciting moment. And I'll just close on, since you asked a philosophical question, I'll give you a philosophical answer. Different people are wired in different ways. And generally it tends to be like liberal, progressive people who have the more sort of creative nature versus a conservative nature is much more of a conservative pattern of thinking and conserving. Right now, the paradox for the conservative movement is I think we actually need leaders in the conservative movement who have that creative creator mindset, because the thing we've sought to conserve in so many ways actually ceases to exist. So it was a deep question. We could probably continue this in a way that doesn't leave everybody else, hold everybody else hostage.
Just one thing to wrap up. Would you support expanding welfare? Because abortion is there's obviously the fringe case of rape, incest, all stuff like that, life of the mother. But would you support expanding welfare to help, because abortion's often an economic issue as well. You wouldn't to prevent it?
No.
That just sounds evil to me.
Well,
That just
well,
sounds
hold
like,
on. That's a good, interesting point. So we've expanded social welfare. We spent $20 trillion in the last 60 years. Has that made abortions go down?
I don't believe so.
The answer is no.
I'm
It's
thinking
gone up.
too.
So actually, the more we've spent on social welfare, the more abortions we have. So you're coming at it from a faulty premise. People do not have abortions because of lack of stuff. They have abortions because they don't think it's a human life.
I mean, I've seen Section 8 housing. It's pretty rough out there, like a lot of this
No,
stuff.
I'm not doubting that. However, you and I will both agree, people murder or do not murder, whether or not they believe it is right or wrong, not whether or not you're driving a Cadillac or a bicycle.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, see you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jeez Louise.
Try to talk right into the mic, please.
Alrighty. Hey Charlie, how's your tea, first of all?
My tea?
Yes.
It's
I
good,
can
thank
see-
you.
All right. So, first of all, I'd like to ask why you're spending your time debating college students instead of people who have similar media training or experience to you. I mean,
It's already been asked. Are you a voter?
I am.
Yeah. We're talking to voters in the key state of Pennsylvania. Should we not do that?
I mean, I'm fine with you doing that. It just seems a little bit asymmetric. If
Yeah,
you don't
well,
want, if you d-
we want to win the election, right?
Fair
So do a lot of conservatives come to this campus?
Not really.
Well, that's why we're here. Yes. Disagreements, you can work your way up. Yes. Wow, look at all those disagreements.
Finally,
I know, it takes a
Coming
while
up,
to,
yeah.
takes a couple hours.
Hello. I have a disagreement with you guys. I believe that the Electoral College is unjust and should be abolished. And
okay,
Mr.
so-
Ramaswamy, I believe, since you ran for president, I would like to hear from you first.
Sure. So, I think this is a common. I know this is near and dear to Charlie's heart. Oh, okay. Let's start with that. Well, I think that is a great question to ask, Charlie. I like that. Let's start with that. So, make sure I'm responding to the question. What is the definition of justice?
Okay, so we talk a lot about like DEI programs and that sort of thing, and people being, unjustly put into these like positions. I believe that the Electoral College is DEI for the Republican Party, where Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but lost the presidency because of the Electoral College, because it empowers rural states more by giving them the electoral votes.
Do you believe that the Senate is unjust?
I believe the Senate needs to exist.
Okay, so because that's the whole principle, is that we don't just live in a direct democracy, we live in a constitutional republic. And that means a few things. First is it means that we are really a union of states. We're not just a random assemblage of geographic land masses called states that we call a union. That means something where part of it is direct representative democracy, but part of it is also making sure that states actually have a relative say in the process. That's how you get the Senate versus the House to balance it out. Same thing with respect to the history of the Electoral College. This is about making sure that we're being thoughtful about the step of who's actually the U.S. president while channeling the democratic will through the manner enshrined in our Constitution. And here's the biggest difference between a republic and a democracy. This is relevant to a lot of young people. Is in a constitutional republic, it's not just about what you get. Right? In a democracy, you get a vote. You think about what does it mean to be a citizen, about what you get. In a constitutional republic, it's also about what you give. It's about your civic duty to your country. And I think that part of what our founding fathers envisioned is we had voters who actually knew something about their country. Every legal immigrant who comes to this country has to pass a civics test before they can vote. Well, frankly, the sad truth is most voters would fail that if they took it today. That would make our founding fathers roll over in their graves. And so I think that we got to get beyond this idea that we're some kind of direct democracy. We're actually a republic where people have responsibilities and states actually have some level of distributed say to make sure that two cities in New York and California don't govern who actually leads the entire United States of America.
And I will push back. Look at the current battleground states. The blackest state in the country is getting a lot of attention because of the Electoral College. Georgia, one of the most black states in the country, North Carolina, is getting a lot of attention.
Atlanta is one of the biggest metro areas in the country. It would get attention whether or not they had the 16 Electoral College votes.
But
the Republican Party has a cushion. They have states like Wyoming that nobody lives in.
Let's be
It's
consistent.
3
okay.
electoral votes.
First of all, 700,000 Americans live there, so let's not talk down to our fellow citizens.
Okay, but why does their vote, right? Why does their vote go farther than mine, who's from Texas?
Hold on a second. Rhode Island and Hawaii are small, and that helps Democrats, right?
Yeah, I think that's bad too.
Okay, got it. But it doesn't just help Republicans. What it does is it requires candidates, as Vivek aptly put it, to have a preference on states. We are not a national project first and foremost. We are a collection of sovereign states that come together as a national project. And the founders wanted a decentralized way of doing elections. And I think it's actually a really good thing that this state, which is incredibly diverse, very difficult to be able to win, will determine the entire election. I think Pennsylvania is a great picture of the country, and you guys get a lot of attention because of it. Now you say in Texas, well, in Texas it actually might become a battleground state one day. The thing about the Electoral College is that certain battleground states rise and certain fall. Ohio used to be a battleground state, now Arizona's a battleground state. Georgia never used to be a battleground state, now it is. Florida used to be. And so what the Electoral College does is it forces candidates to go into places outside of the coastal corridor and win over voters of the people that actually make the country work, such as Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Michigan.
It doesn't answer the question, though, why somebody's vote in somewhere like Wyoming, which has 3 votes for 70,000 people, versus Texas's 700,000 versus Texas's 38 for 30 million. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's
to me.
actually proportional, though, because
No, it's not.
It is proportional because, okay, then would you get rid of Wyoming as statehood? To be consistent, should Wyoming exist as a state?
Absolutely.
Well, then,
But their vote should be the same as mine.
So I got a solution to this, and it's
Abolish
not
the Electoral College.
Well, it's not the one that I made. It's the solution that our founding fathers made, which is that if we don't like that, the United States of America, we got a way to change it.
Yeah.
It's a constitutional amendment. So
you agree with me?
I don't agree with you because
No,
I wouldn't
of
vote
course
for it.
not.
But if your view is that this is anti-democratic,
I love my
there's
country.
a way to change
I
it.
agree.
Where if 3/4 of people in this country wanted to change it, that would change in an instant. And so there's a mechanism to go through it. So just like the gentleman earlier who was founding a movement, there could be a movement that says we want a constitutional amendment to
There is
abolish the
one.
Electoral College, but they haven't managed to convince enough people in this country that it's worth it. And the reason why is there was actually a justification for it. Turns out that most people, when they think about it, actually do land where Charlie and I do on a popular vote basis across the country. That wouldn't be a weighted vote, by the way. So you're talking about actually overturning it through the constitutional amendment, then Wyoming doesn't actually get more votes. You're talking about just 3/4 of the overall states and 3/4 of the vote in Congress, which is proportional representation. So there's a way to fix it that our founding fathers, these guys were geniuses. They had built that into the system.
I agree. I love my country. I'm a patriot.
And if you convince your citizens, then maybe that will be true 50 years
but
from
we
now.
don't
But it's never
believe
happened.
that majoritarian ways of doing elections is the best way. We think
Why
that,
not?
Well, because we're not an up or down majoritarian democracy. We're a decentralized country of states first. And I'll keep on saying that sovereign states matter. That's what makes us different than France and Germany and Belgium and the United Kingdom, is that we're a bottom-up form of government, not a top-down form of
Germany
government.
also has strong state governments.
Not as much, actually, during COVID. When edicts were done in Germany, it was straight from the centralized government. No, it's like they did not have provinces. Like Bavaria did not have a different COVID policy than, Berlin. They didn't have, in America, COVID was a great example of why we have decentralized states. States were able to make different decisions. California lost their mind.
I don't disagree with you on this.
No, of
I
course.
love our country.
No.
What I'm saying is, you haven't addressed why somebody in Wyoming should matter more on the
Well, but-
Electoral College basis than me in Texas. It makes no sense.
I reject the framing.
One person, one vote.
No, that's not it's never been that way, though. Not in presidential elections.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not. One person, one vote is a majoritarian democracy.
Okay.
Instead, it's the states get appropriated.
But you haven't told me why that's better. You've told me that it is the way it is.
I'm attempting to. As I said, we're a bottom-up government, not a top-down government. It decentralizes power. It also requires leaders, as I've said, to hear the needs, wants, and concerns. We're not going to agree here, and that's fine.
So I'll give you an image. Unfortunately, I can't show you the image like right now, but you can look it up. All right. Somebody made this image of what the electoral map could look like if the Electoral College was abolished. You would have 2 blue dots, one around New York and one around the west coast of California. The entire rest of the map of the United States of America.
I'm from Texas. I can assure
would be
you there
red.
would be several blue dots there.
But I'm saying that in theory, you could have an election where it would just be those 2 blue blots and the rest of the entire map is red, and you would still have an outcome where you would have a blue president of the United States.
Yes.
And it could be in
Land
reverse
doesn't
too.
vote.
And so the answer is that would feel unjust for a lot of those other states that deserve to actually be respected as states in the union, We have the Senate and the House for the same reason that we have the Electoral College. We need to balance the way in which those sovereign states are still a part of the Union. I know you may not find that persuasive. That's the reason. But if you convince other people across the country, you'd be able to overturn it in a constitutional amendment. It's just that hasn't happened in the first 240 years of our constitutional founding.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I just wanted to ask about Donald Trump and his VP pick, J.D. Vance. So I think J.D. Vance was a poor pick by Donald Trump. I'm pretty moderate. I think somebody like Vivek or Marco Rubio or somebody else would have united the ticket and built a better coalition to win the election for the Republican Party. I just wanted to hear your thoughts
Look,
on that.
you're obviously flattering me. I appreciate that. But I'll tell you, I know JD personally. I actually happen to have gone to law school with him. It's actually a rare way to know somebody long before politics. Yeah, we were fellow Bengals fans. We both grew up in Cincinnati, greater Cincinnati, about 10, 15 minutes from each other until we were 6. I could say this in a way that a lot of people may not know from seeing somebody on TV. To ask a lot of questions about character of leadership. He is a man whose personal character, as a father, as a husband, as a friend, I can just attest to that, policy views aside, is the kind of person you want in American politics today. And I think if more people are able to see that across the country, they'll understand why I believe he's going to be a great vice president. That's the true and honest answer, and I appreciate the kind comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I have another question. Where does the Republican Party go, post Donald Trump? What's kind of the future of the Republican Party?
Well, I think that there's a couple forks in the road. Here's where I think we need to go. Because we're going to face this debate. Do we want to get in there and replace a left-wing nanny state with a conservative nanny state? My view is, here's where the Republican Party needs to go. 3-word slogan: shut it down. Okay, get in there, shut down the federal bureaucracy, shut down the foreign policy nanny state, shut down the domestic nanny state, revive pride in this country. And the key next step to getting there, the unambiguous next step, is putting Donald Trump in the White House, which is why I'm supporting him. We're not done. This November is not the finish line. This November is the starting line. That's the way I look at it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yep, thank you.
Yes, disagreements. I can see you. Great. We have a disagreement. Please alter the mic. It's like all the disagreements got out of class
Hello.
at 2 p.m. or something.
Hi, Mr. Ramaswamy. Hi, Mr. Kirk. So my name's Brandon. Oh boy, there's a lot of folk back there. They don't like you very much. So
we'll find out.
My main disagreement with you guys, at least in my opinion, would be I think you guys are a bit of isolationists. Would you call yourselves isolationists?
I would not. Would you, Charlie?
We're America first, not
so
America only.
Could you elaborate on that position?
I was about to.
Okay, sorry.
We're America first, but not America only.
Okay.
And here's what that means. I'm not an interventionist. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think our foreign policy should reflect whatever best advances America's interests. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll just summarize this in a punchline because we've got a lot of questions to get to.
Yeah.
Is it in America's interest to provide protection and security guarantees to allies? It often is. But I have one rule of thumb. You got to ask them to pay for it, at least their fair share. I'm against the nanny state domestically, but I got to be consistent. I'm against the nanny state internationally, too. And I'll give you NATO as one example of that, all right? Most of the countries in NATO do not pay for the minimum amount they've already agreed to pay in the Treaty of NATO, 2% of their GDP on military expense for their own national defense. They're not doing it today. Germany is arbitraging the United States of America, and I think that's wrong. And I think that Uncle Sam has become Uncle Sucker no more. And you know what? That's not just for the money. People think I say this for the money. The money matters. We have $34 trillion in national debt. It's going to fall on your generation's shoulder, heavier than that backpack you're wearing by the time you grow up. I appreciate that. So it's already heavy. You're feeling the burden of it. But it's not just for the money. Other nations are more likely to start wars when they don't bear the full cost of those wars. It's a concept that you call moral hazard in economics,
yes.
where you don't bear the full burden of the risks that you take. So it's not just your taxpayer money. It's not even me and Charlie be long gone before most of you, okay? It's your future money and your future national debt. But it's not just that. It's more likely to drag you into a war because some other country doesn't have the incentive to bear the cost if the United States is subsidizing it. That's my answer. So I'm America first. I'm not an isolationist, but I do think that those who we support should pay their fair share, and that's not too much to ask.
Okay, so I would say it's very interesting that you say that because I am personally an interventionist. I believe in the idea that we are the city on the hill, we're the beacon, we're also the world police, and in that role, we should maintain a world that has free and functioning democracy. Meaning, so for example, you were talking about the Iraq War earlier. The Iraq War, I believe, in my personal opinion, was a justified war, not for the reasons why they claimed it was justified in WMDs, but because of what Saddam Hussein was doing to the Kurdish population in Iraq and gassing them and gassing his own people. And so I believe that it is the responsibility of the American people as the holders of that torch of democracy to deliver that democracy and
Here's
make
what I'll
sure
say.
that
A lot
it's
of
stable.
Republicans might agree with you. Charlie and I don't. And that's where
I
we
understand. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, Dick Cheney definitely agrees with you. No, but really, I'm just curious. Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, parts of Syria, Ukraine.
Yeah.
Do you think those are successes?
So I would say it would depend on how you grade a success, but I would say particularly Afghanistan. Afghanistan is the key failing point. Although Iraq is somewhat stable, it's a kind of a moderate
It's controlled
case.
by Iran.
Yeah, so it's moderate, right? But for Afghanistan, that's the real failure, and that's where I think the Biden administration really failed, and that exit strategy was not operated poorly. We shouldn't have left in the first place. We should have made sure that the government was ready and willing to actually be able to take care of the people.
So let's see if we can agree on something.
Yeah.
If you had to choose, and you don't, but if
Yeah.
you had to choose, should the American border matter more than wars abroad?
I would say it should matter as equal. It should equal.
Really?
Yeah.
You think that our border should matter as much as something happening overseas?
I think our status as a world power, as the superpower of the world, is not just that we have borders here domestically, but we have borders abroad that are, I guess you could say, more ephemeral or whatever. They are still our border with, like, Russia, for example, with NATO. That is still a border that we should be paying attention to and focusing with.
We are. I just believe that Germany needs to be paying more, and so do the rest of the NATO
Yes,
allies.
yes, yes.
So that's where I agree. We
So-
probably
yeah,
want to go to the next question, because we could go all day on
you
this.
know,
You're pulling me
absolutely.
in. We love this
But
topic.
I love you.
But we gotta
I
go.
mean, I had hope for you, Vivek. But like, I'm a Democrat personally. But like, and I'm sorry, whatever. But I'm Catholic, and it's whatever. But basically, I just think that you were so good. Your foreign policy is what turned me off. I
But
think.
I will say, as someone who is an interventionist, you have found your home. The Democrat Party is the party of reckless war and invading foreign lands.
Hey, you know what?
And turning the back on the American people. So you're right.
Hey,
you've
I
made.
give him credit because he's a lot more honest than a lot of politicians.
I'm not saying it sarcastically. I mean,
No, yeah.
You're at home.
Honest.
I'll be real. I'll be realistic with you.
Because
I'm
our party.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Our party thinks Iraq was a mistake, Libya was a mistake, Syria was a mistake, Afghanistan was a mistake, and
We're able to have a serious conversation because you're actually honest about it.
Yeah.
A lot of Republicans and Democrats try to pretend otherwise, and I appreciate the
Yeah,
honesty.
I think that's the
Thank
main
you very
problem
much.
with politics: lack of honesty.